Take that step.
Over the hills, up the mountain, to the top, taking a step. No more spills from the fountain, we won't stop, taking a step.
Take that step.
Over the moon, over the sun, we will continue to take that step. Over the moon, over the sun, we will continue to take that step. Made it this far, we have to keep on, no one will stop us, taking a step. Flying to that stop, singing our song, sweep away the dust, taking a step. Over the moon, over the sun, we will continue to take that step. Over the moon, over the sun, we will continue to take that step. Higher heights, moving on, stepping on, taking that step. Keep on, moving on, stepping up, taking that steps. We will continue, we will continue to take that step.
Over the moon,
continue,
we will continue
to take that step.
Take that step. Gonna have fun. We will continue to take that step. Feeling brand new, getting it done. We will continue to take that step. Taking a step.
Taking that step.
Taking a step. Take that step.
Over the hills, up the mountain, to the top, taking a step. No more spills from the fountain, we won't stop, taking a step.
Take that step.
Over the moon, over the sun, we will continue to take that step. Over the moon, over the sun, we will continue to take that step. Made it this far, we have to keep on, no one will stop us, taking a step. Flying to that stop, singing our song, sweep away the dust, taking a step. Over the moon, over the sun, we will continue to take that step. Over the moon, over the sun, we will continue to take that step. Higher heights, moving on, stepping on, taking that step. Keep on, moving on, stepping up, taking that steps. We will continue, we will continue to take that step.
Over the moon,
continue,
we will continue
to take that step.
Take that step. Gonna have fun. We will continue to take that step. Feeling brand new, getting it done. We will continue to take that step. Taking a step.
Taking that step.
Taking a step. Take that step.
Over the hills, up the mountain, to the top, taking a step. No more spills from the fountain, we won't stop, taking a step.
Take that step.
Over the moon, over the sun, we will continue to take that step. Over the moon, over the sun, we will continue to take that step. Made it this far, we have to keep on, no one will stop us, taking a step. Flying to that stop, singing our song, sweep away the dust, taking a step. Over the moon, over the sun, we will continue to take that step. Over the moon, over the sun, we will continue to take that step. Higher heights, moving on, stepping on, taking that step. Keep on, moving on, stepping up, taking that steps. We will continue, we will continue to take that step.
Over the moon,
continue,
we will continue
to take that step.
Take that step. Gonna have fun. We will continue to take that step. Feeling brand new, getting it done. We will continue to take that step. Taking a step. Taking a step.
All right. Peace and blessings, everyone. Tepu, good to see you. Excited to be here on Kamitic Legacy podcast for January 4th. So I want to welcome you. I see you filling up the chat. Put an N in the chat for new if this is your first time. If you're new to our podcast, put an N in the chat. And if you're on the Winter Solstice course with us, all right. Oh, Vance, you're new? Takeem. Peace, Takeem. Okay, good to see you here. Brother Takeem, Kendris. And Lori said what? Okay. Al Davis, Thomas, Miss Alice, Diana, John, Silver, wow, Lorena, welcome, Angel, Stan, Dub, Nikki, Divine Queen Mother here for the first time. Welcome home. Letitia, Damita, Belle, Malik, you've been here before. Maybe that's another Malik Fields. Nevea, Jacqueline, Andrea, peace and love. Kendris, Tammy, Bertha, Shante, Maurice. Wow, so many new people. Welcome. I want to welcome you. And I want to let you know that if you are new with us and you might not yet be familiar, we have an archive with the recordings of many podcasts that you can check out, that you can study up on, that in this important time, you can keep your mind in the realm of higher consciousness. So let me just find it here. Where is it at? Okay, here we go. You can go to bit.ly, bit.ly /Kamitcast, KAMITCAST, and you can sign up for our free podcast archive. You'll get a recording of what we do tonight. That'll be there, as well as dozens of other shows that we've had, so you can catch up on all the great wisdom that we've been fortunate enough to be able to share with you. And now I see my winter solstice people. If you're on the winter solstice, put WS and the number. What day are you on? Are you on your third day? Are you on your 15th day? Are you on your 20th day? What streak do you have going? Let's take a look here. Who's rocking that winter solstice every day? What day are you on, Ma'achayas? Okay. Ovia on day 2, right on. And we have Uchaz on day 1. Kathy Carter, Indescript. Oh, somebody's on day 6. Somebody's on day 15. Go on with your bad self. Fatah Men, day 13. Andrew, 10 days in a row. That's right. Penelope's at 3. Z's at 3. John is on day 21. Letitia, day 14. Maati. Yes. And we have Fafanta is on day 13. Very good. I know you're feeling it. Put some exclamations in there if you're getting some results, some powerful results, some revelations. All right. Imminent Ma'at Ra on day 12. Huspi's on day 10. 10 days in a row. You got to be feeling it. Yes. Awesome. Yes. Excellent. All right. Well, if you're new with us, you're going to hear a little bit about that program that's available. The good news is that it's not too late. We call it winter solstice because that's the beginning of the winter season. And you actually have well into March to get your winter spiritual work done. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But without further ado, we are going to get right to the business at hand. And it is my pleasure to introduce to those of you who are here for the first time, and for those of you that are veterans, our great spiritual teacher, the master teacher, Un Nefer Amen. If you're not familiar, he is the author of over 40 works, including the world-renowned Metu Neter Series, volumes 1 through 7. He's also written several books on Taoist philosophy and Bazi that you're going to hear a little bit about tonight as we discuss this important understanding of the new year and what you can do to prepare yourself to mitigate your liabilities and enhance your assets, to take advantage of the energy considerations of this particular year, and make sure you don't get caught unawares. So I'd like to, at this time, welcome Shekhem Ur Shekhem, Un Nefer Amen, with the greetings of power and peace. Anecharak Shekhem.
How you doing?
Excellent, excellent. You sound well. It sounds like the audio's coming across fine.
Very good. I'm on my phone and my computer just conked out completely.
Uh-huh.
No understanding what is going on.
It's always another way.
Always another way.
So Shekhem Ur Shekhem, getting right into it, you've introduced us to those of us that are new, and we have a lot of new folks listening today, and I'm sure a lot of new people are joining us on our live on Instagram and on Facebook, as well as our YouTube. And in our Winter Solstice course, you introduced us to the understanding of the psyche, and you spoke a little bit about the Gua, referencing the Taoist system. So I just want to open up for those people that are not familiar. You know, it seems like in the West, we're very confused about time. You know, on the one hand, they're saying the new year was 1st of January. On another hand, we say that it actually is changed over on the 25th of December with the solstice. And now we're dealing with the Taoist understanding that the new year begins in February. So can you give us some clarity on that and how we are to understand the Taoist perspective?
Very good. Thank you so much. And I want to say blessings to the audience. Very thankful that they put some time aside to share this evening with us, exchanging spiritual information. So, you know, if we go to Google and search for New Year's Day, throughout the world, we will find that different cultures celebrate different dates as the New Year, but it's important to get it right. You see that. You take, for example, the present calendar where January 1st, is the first day of the new year. That is not based on any planetary or solar or astronomical or geomagnetic phenomena. It's just simply a geopolitical, principle that the Roman Empire established for itself, and it has remained that way for the Western world. Ancient Egypt, for example, had about 4 or 5 different calendars, and each calendar had to do with, different, one for agricultural purposes, another calendar, for administrative purposes, and there's a spiritual calendar, which, has to do with, the winter solstices, the 2 solstices, the winter and the summer solstices, and the 2 equinoxes, the autumnal and the spring equinox. And we have to get to understanding, the thoughts behind these calendars. For example, the Roman calendar, okay, which, today uses January 1st, in ancient times, they had other dates for the new year. But it's all political and industrial and economic and so forth. So when we speak about the new year beginning on December 25th, the end of the winter solstice, we're speaking about a spiritual calendar, a calendar that is that is generated by the psychical, and bioelectrical, energy of the earth, of the planet Earth. So, we have to dive a little deeper into the subject and just not accept, the popular information and so on. Because once you understand that the winter solstice, along with the summer solstice and the two equinoxes, have to do with the man's psyche. It tracks the ups and downs, the cyclical events happening in your psyche and your spirit. Then it is very, very important to understand and put this calendar to use in your life. And meaning that if I base, my spiritual work on the Western calendar started by the Romans, where January 1st is the first day of the year, has no reference to my spiritual and psychical, life. Even though, people are making resolutions on January 1st or December 31st, people are making resolutions, for a better life, to act better. But that calendar has makes no references to the dynamic changes going on in the spirit and the psyche. So it is of little value. We find, for example, that, the Babylonians, followed them by the Romans, were the first people, as far as I know, that instituted the practice of, resolutions at the new year. But at least the Babylonians would spend 2 weeks of meditation and rituals and ceremonies to cultivate their psychical and mental, functions, okay, to truly bring about a change in behavior and so on. Compare that to the present Western practice of just writing down on a piece of paper and burning it, or just intellectual statements. If you want to make a major change in your life to improve your performance, your behavior, your wealth, your health, you're going to need much, much more than, the effort and the knowledge that people put into these so-called New Year's resolutions. And this is why I created this course. We are now in about our 45th year of this course. We brought it outdoors to the general public for the past, I would say, 7, 8 years, and we are going even further with it, taking advantage, of technology to bring it to the world. So we need to be very thankful for that ability to share on the highest level, this course. I see that you came back on stage. Is there a question you want to pose, sir?
Oh no, yeah, I was just going to ask you, because nowadays people don't even make resolutions so much. They just kind of wish each other for a happy new year, or they might make business plans like, I want to accomplish this or I want to accomplish that. But when you say the word resolution and you mentioned it, you're speaking about a behavioral change, like things that we could change in our own behavior. That's really the focus of the new year.
That's correct. And you cannot change your behavior. You cannot, energize your mind and your psyche to be successful. You see that? You have to understand that your behavior and your performance is governed by certain mental and psychical and spiritual faculties that require expert, cultivation, expert, programming and reprogramming. So you just cannot wish each other. The word wish goes to wash, wishy-washy kind of a thing here. So we just cannot wish people a better year. You see, that we have to involve ourselves in meditations that impact the psyche, the mind, and the spirit to bring about the proper changes. And any behavioral psychiatrist or psychologist will tell you that you need at least 21 years of informed, in-depth, cultivation to change the course, of behavior in your psyche, your mind, and your spirit. You see, so and it's unfortunate because people really believe that these New Year's resolutions, are really a thing. There's less than a handful of people who, in 1,000 that achieve something, but that's because their mind and psyche was very primed, to make those changes. But the great majority of people get nowhere. And the what makes it, quote, a sad story is that there has been in place a knowledge that people can tap into, okay, to truly utilize this time, to cultivate their spirit, their mind and sight to achieve the goal. And and I said this time because you see, our faculties, physical, psychological, and mental, are on a biological, psychological clock. You see that? Meaning, for example, if you Google, biocycles, biological rhythms, and so on, you will find that our functions do not perform on the same level every hour of the day or every day of the week or every month of the year. They alternate, they go up and down and follow a regular pattern, a regular cyclical pattern. So the time of the year that our psyche and mind are most receptive for us to make changes in the directions of our life is, the winter months, starting with the winter solstice. And I say starting with the winter solstice because the work that you have to do takes at least 21 days, and at best, 9 days. You see that? So, and people need to understand that, the winter solstice is not a 4-day event or a 1-day event, and that's why it is so easy to replace it with a January 1st resolution, and if we are really serious about making a change in our lives, okay, we need to visit, an in-depth course, so that we can subscribe to and do the work to change our behavior. It's a cyclical thing, meaning that, the parts of our spirit that is responsible for making changes in our lives, which, in the yogic tradition called the Swadhisthana chakra. You see, that's that part, you see, that is responsible for the effects that take place in our lives and the changes, in our behavior to make those events possible. That chakra, called the Swadhisthana, incorrectly, the sex chakra is most receptive for cultivation, in the months of the winter. So I'd like to go a little deeper into, the Chinese, the Taoist, you know, um, you know, insight into these changes. For example, the winter months, up until, the beginning of February, from November to February, beginning of February, corresponds to, the meridians, the acupuncture meridian energy channels, and psychical organs, okay, that are responsible for our behavior, our self-identity. So the winter months, even from the Taoist perspective, are most receptive, for making changes in our lives. The 3 months from February, March, and April correspond to, respectively to the tiger, the rabbit, and the dragon. These are metaphors. These are metaphors for, the behavior of the psyche and the mind and so on. So that when we are in the year and the months of the tiger, okay, the rabbit and the dragon, those 3 months or those 3 years, right now in 2023, we are in the year of the rabbit, moving into the year of the dragon, just coming out of the year of the tiger in 2022. We find that in 2022, that is when Russia invaded, the Ukraine. And the date, February 24th, 2022. Okay, that was a tiger year, a tiger month, okay, which, are the most aggressive, parts of our psyche. You see that when there's an overabundance, of those the energies, that are coded by the tiger metaphor. When we are in the grips of that tiger, we are capable or we are moved. You see, to the most aggressive behavior that we're capable of. You see that. And we find that even this year, 2023, even though we are in the rabbit, nations were not able to overcome, okay, the influence of the previous tiger year. You see that. And so now we have what's going on in Palestine and in Israel. So next year we are in the dragon. It's a metaphor for the part of our psyche that is responsible for our ambition. Meaning that if you learn how to tap in to that dragon energy, you can fire up your ambition to a very high level to achieve great things, the most important things in your life. I'm talking about an energy that is coming in around February the 5th, the 6th, and the rest of the year, you'll have access to that great draconian force. But to keep you from misusing that force and going overboard, you need the winter cultivation course that we're doing now, because, the essence of that winter cultivation, number one, is for you to unite yourself with God. Okay? Why? Because as the human part of our being is limited in our ability to be one with others and nature. It's limited in our abilities to know, to understand what we should be doing and how to do it and when and why and so forth. And we're limited in our power, our talents to achieve our goals. So, the most important, step that we can take to achieve our goals, what do you want this year, 2024? You want to go back to school. You want to find the money to go back to school. You want to buy a house. You need to buy a car. You need to improve your health. You need to get married. What do you want for this year? Okay, if you're limited to your human talents, okay, you are really, behind the 8 ball, as they say. Whatever you want to achieve, you will be in a better position, if you learn how to unite, just become one with God. Yoga means to yoke, to unite. And when you understand yoga teachings in the proper way, it's not the asanas and the breathing techniques. It's the philosophy that goes with those asanas and those breathing techniques and so forth to achieve yoga or yoking or union with God. So, but you got to understand that the faculties that will enable you to unite with God are most active in the winter months. You see that? Okay, the months of December, with November, December, and January. Starting especially with December the 21st until March the 30th. So, if you know how to cultivate that part of your spirit and the Svadhisthana chakra, you see, then you will be able to impact the part of your being that has the greatest say, you see that, in your ability to achieve your goals. Well, Tutankhamun, I see that your panel is closed. Are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this understanding of the Taoist principle of the year, you're saying that how this relates to our psyche. I know in the course we talk about chakras, which is from the Indus Kush tradition. And in the Taoist tradition, you're speaking about the Gua. And earlier you related it to the meridian channels within the body. Does that give us an opportunity to do work basically with herbs or acupuncture or qigong or some other methodology to influence how this energy affects our energy meridians?
Well, it gives us not only the opportunity to work in that manner, it gives us, it lays the foundation for truly holistic practice. Instead of an holistic approach to life. You see that? One of the great things that the Taoists, have done, and sadly enough, the Chinese government has kind of like pushed back on Taoism and embraced Confucianism instead. You see? And even TC and traditional Chinese medicine, has been separated from the Taoist, foundation. You see? So the thing is that the Taoist, or the classical Chinese medical approach ties right into so-called Chinese astrology, which is not really it's not really an astrology, it's a cycles tracking system. You see that? It tracks the cycles that governs the faculties through which we function. You see that? So when we're able to make the one-to-one coordination between, the 14 major meridians, the 12 meridians, but once we add, the conception vessel and Zumo, the vessel, we have 14 major chakras. 14 major meridians. In the same way, we have, in the yogic tradition, we have 14 chakras. You see that? Okay, and then once we analyze the structure of these 14 chakras and the 14 major meridians, we found that it coordinates exactly well with the 11 faculties of the spirit. You see that? And then we have the I Ching, the Fuji, what we call early heaven arrangements that ties everything together and gives us, an opportunity to impact our lives, with herbs and acupuncture, with meditations, with Qigong, with the Kamitic system and the yogic system. It's a phenomenal, integrative approach to living and therapy. Truly holistic. You see that? For example, the dragon energy coming in, in March. Okay. I'm sorry, in April. Okay. Is controlled by the rabbit energy of this year. You see that? Because the rabbit energy controls, both, the dragon and the tiger. Those are the yang forces, you see, of the wood energy. The wood energy, the energy that enables us to accomplish our goals. You see that? The Chen, Gua in the I Ching. So once we put all of these things together, we have a system where we can do I Ching readings and translate it into Qigong practices, translate it into Chinese, prescriptions, dietary prescription based on the 5 element theory, more than a theory, and so on. And so in this course here that we have for this winter, we are laying the foundation, for the 4 major spiritual and psychological cultivations in our lives. You see that? Every quarter, okay, there is, a major set, of faculty that govern our lives that we must cultivate, according to the law of cycles. You see that? And one of the most important understanding of spirituality and religion is that, it was quoted by Ezekiel, or in the book of Ezekiel in the Bible, where it said there's nothing new under the sun, meaning that everything is the recurrence of a cycle. Every single thing, animate or inanimate, occurs on a cyclical level. You understand that? Meaning that, an oil well will produce a high yield and a low yield in a predictable cyclical, manner. You see that? Let's say if an oil well could, I think it's on a 9.6 year cycle. So every 9.6 years it hits a high, and then the other half of 9.6 it hits a low, and comes back to 9.6 again and hits a high. No matter what efforts you put to get more oil out of that well. You see that? Okay, and everything, you see that? Our blood pressure, our circulation, our breathing, our mental abilities, all of it is on a bio clock, a psychical clock. You see that? Meaning that your ability to learn is better at certain days of the month, certain months of the year, certain hours of the day. And if you take advantage of those cycles, you will accomplish a whole lot much more in your learning. People say, Shekhem Ur Shekhem, how did you write over from 45 books in 50 years? That's just magic. Because magic is based on laws and cycle. It's not getting something out of thin air, some whatever. It's the, you have, the magician card in the tarot. We have the sign of infinity. People say it's infinity. No, it's not an infinity. It's a sign of the cycles. You see that? We have a wave going up and coming down at the same time, a wave going down and coming up, forming an 8 that's laying on its side. Meaning that as one energy goes up, its opposite goes down. And as it goes back, come back up, its opposite go down. As the opposite goes down, the energy goes up. So it's an 8, makes an 8 figure. You see that? Okay, as the yang is going up, yin is going down. As the yin is coming up, yang is going down. So that's the so-called lemniscate over the head of the magician. You see that? And magician is pointing down to a cube, a garden and a cube. I mean, a garden and an emblem for the 4 elements. Saying that, you see, the magic or the miracle that you perform is not miraculous, it's not magical, it's just simply riding the wave of cycles. You see that? So if I study at the right time, the midday, for example, mid-afternoon is the best time to transfer information into long-term memory. You see that? You need to cram for an exam, do it in the morning. You see that? You need to prepare for an exam, prepare in the morning. You want to assimilate your lessons, do it mid-afternoon. The best time to digest your food, okay, is, early, mid-afternoon. You see that? Okay, that is why if you're eating your main meal late at night, you put on more weight because your metabolism is not set up for digesting food that late. These facts have been known to scientists for thousands of years. There's in your Emperor Class of Internal Medicine, there's a whole lot of books on chronobiology and things of nature, but they don't want you to know these things because when they say that the drug works or doesn't work, because they put it through testing, they didn't test the people according to what's the best time for that drug to work or that illness to be worked on. And these are powerful factors that affect people's lives. And we're living in an industrial financial system that is not based on leveraging the wisdom of the ages to improve the lives of people. I'm not putting anybody down here. My mission is just simply to help people learn the truth and find out where they can learn it and how they can learn it and do my little bit that I can do to facilitate the learning of these things. But that's the only way we're going to have a better world. You see that? By cultivating spirituality in people's lives and divinity. Yes, sir.
If you're just joining us, we have a few hundred people that have come into the webinar room, and I know some of you have just joined us on Instagram. We're speaking with Shekhem Ur Shekhem, Un Nefer Amen. He is the CEO of Kamitic Legacy and the founder of the Ausar Auset Society, world-renowned author and composer of meditation music and developer of the Winter Solstice Season Meditation course. And we're speaking about time vis-a-vis this year that's coming in. And Shekhem Ur Shekhem, this is such an alien concept to the Western world, at least the popular Western world. We tend to have this idea that's transmitted to us that, your success is based on, your will, your mindset. Just make up your mind to do it, toughen up, lift yourself up by your own bootstraps. There's no concept of the factor of time and cycles. And it brings to mind a good friend of mine who's he's a Qigong master and a Chinese medical practitioner. And he shared with me that among the Chinese community, certain aspects of it anyway, every winter there's a certain herbal formula that they include it in their foods and their soups and so forth, and they give this to their children, for the winter cycle to nourish I believe it was the kidney energy. So this idea is very foreign in the Western world, that there's certain time to take certain herbs, there's certain times to do certain kind of meditations, and that our success really depends on timing, because time is not just, as you taught us, it's not just quantity, it's quality. So you're saying that we're going into the year of the dragon, and you spoke to us about certain qualities that the dragon has. What can we expect as far as, world events and national events? This 2024 has some interesting dynamics here in America with elections and different things. What would we expect, understanding the nature of the dragon?
Yeah, the first of all, there's no such thing as dragon people or tiger people, right? These are faculties of the psyche. You see that? Okay? From the Chinese perspective, there are 12 faculties of the psyche. All right? And the dragon is one of them, and the dragon is a source of man's ambition. If you're very, expansive, okay, you're very progressive, you're extremely confident and fearless, in your approach to life, because, and you're going after big things. It is a dragon, which I think is a stomach meridian, which is, and I don't want to confuse the student, because, they say, oh, but I thought that the dragon is wood and the stomach is earth. Okay? It's not as simple as that. You see that? Okay? But the dragon corresponds to the most, is the energy that drives us to the most expansive levels of accomplishment. So, if you think you have the capacity to achieve something big, this is the year for you to learn how to tap into that dragon energy through Qigong. You see that? Okay? And if you did nothing, okay, but you are ambitious, you are still going to be moved by it. If you want to maximize, then you can learn how to bring that wood energy into the southern meridian and the liver meridian, the gallbladder meridian, and things of that nature. Okay? You see, because you see, in the Western world, there's this misunderstanding that if somebody informs you, gives you a lecture, a sermon on how to accomplish great things, that's enough. No, there are faculties in your mind and your psyche and your spirit that have to carry that function out. Nothing happens without energy. As Baba Ram Das said, talk, don't cook the food. You gotta have fire. You see that? And as the I Ching says, cocks crowing to heaven do not make the sun rise. You have to go beyond talk and informing people and lecturing and teaching them that you have to help them awaken these faculties, rev up these faculties. And when you rev it, up that dragon, not only will it push you to do great things, it will give you the talent to do great things. You see that, but you also now have to cultivate the faculty of the rabbit. That's a metaphor for certain meridians within you that you have to learn how to activate, because you see, and you're going to activate it with the help of the winter months. You see that? The so-called, winter solstice, which is really from December 21st to March, the 30th, that work. You see that? Where you're going to first establish your relationship with God, or renew that relationship, and then awaken the Swadhisthana chakra and purify it, so that you can go into that dragon year. You see that? That begins, officially, in April, in February, but it begins in the tiger, month, whatever. But that energy that draconian energy is already at work. As we saw in the news, how, the Islamic Republic, attacked Iran. But that's draconian. That's like you coming with a slingshot, attacking, it's a David Goliath story here. But in this case, Goliath is going to win.
Mm.
So the Islamic Republic, they had, like draconian ideas without the proper support, of what they have done. You see that? So to keep you now from going overboard with that draconian Indian, it's going to be there whether you tap into it or not. Many of you are going to be moved to do great things and big things. But you need to have other spiritual and psychical and mental faculties awakened, and cultivated, preparing you to do great things this year.
Mm.
You see that?
Mm-hmm.
This is not a year for little things. For those who are equipped, who have established their union with God and have purified the Swadhisthana chakra, this is the year to accomplish great things. But you don't want to go overboard. You want to have God backing you with his omnipresence so that other people can help you spiritually. You want to leverage God's omniscience. Then you want to pick God's brain and get that wisdom to know what to do and when and how and why you're doing it. And you want to tap into God's omnipotence to learn, to be able to add to your limited ability to achieve. And lots of people in spirituality don't understand that the essence of spirituality is to unite with God, to share in God's powers and knowledge and universal presence to achieve your goal. You think that with your little mind and psyche, just if you meditate and do some yogic push-ups or whatever, you're going to accomplish great things. No, you need God in your corner.
Mm-hmm.
Do not refer to the source of guidance as the universe. The universe didn't create itself. The universe was created by an intelligent, conscious being.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it had the ability to command energy, yes, to go through transformations that we call the psychical, mental, and physical world. That is what life is about.
Mm. So the work that we're doing on the solstice is going to help us to moderate this energy that comes in for those people that already might be excessively ambitious. What type of signs should they look for? Are there actually physical ways this could affect their health, the increase of this energy?
Well, absolutely, but from a psychological point of view, if you have an excessive amount of dragon energy in you, okay, and just throw a technical bone out there. Let's say you have a Bazi, so-called Chinese horoscope, which is not really astrology because there are no stars in Bazi, so-called Chinese horoscope. There's no stars and planets or whatever. It's tracking the flow of energy on different levels. You see that? That's what a Bazi chart is.
Hmm.
Okay, it's not a chart of the heavens or stars or planets. What we have is the life force, you see, dividing itself through its 10 different modalities on different levels. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
So if in that chart you have, let's say, two dragons, or a dragon and a dog, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you have a clash, let's call it a clash. Then you might manifest the negative side of the dragon, meaning that you will be guilty of what we call hubris, where you just simply have this, arrogance, this belief that you can do whatever wrong to whomever and not suffer the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Or you might, invest way beyond prudence, and so on. You become so greedy, and the investment guide said, invest only 10% of your income and you just simply are overexpensive and you invest, all of it, 50% of it. Your life savings and end up, broke in 2 seconds. The market goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, but if you have the spiritual and the secular means to contain, you have that divine guidance behind you, you're sharing God's omniscience, okay? Then you will have the guidance, the divine guidance directly from God to not overstep your boundaries, to not, be cruel and dismissive and, and hurtful to other people and so on. People have that strong draconian energy in them will run amok over other people and don't care. They will look down on people. So that's where that energy will manifest itself. And many of us have energies of that nature, you see, and find it very difficult to control because they have not been taught how to control the impulses and the emotions and so forth. And this is what the winter cultivation will assist people to lay a foundation for the changes in behavior. You see that? Okay, part of this year coming, the rabbit will energy will still be there because the rabbit energy is a virtue of being, you know, um, you know, kind, okay, of being diplomatic, okay, creative, instead of ramming through something, instead of instead of ramming through an obstruction, the rabbit energy needs to accompany that dragon energy. You see that? And we will have a course on that the spring months. That rabbit energy has to help make you, you know, um, very creative and things of that nature and so on. And as a bonus to our, students that, are in the winter solstice, we are going to throw in, that yin wood cultivation of the rabbit so that people can begin to prepare themselves, to contain that dragon energy, because from what we are seeing, that dragon energy is going to come in with a lot of extra yang wood. It's a yang wood dragon year.
Mm.
So, whoever plugs into that energy, and you shouldn't be afraid. You should plug into it because then you can accomplish, beyond your dreams. But you want to continue. You want to stay in the middle ground. You want to send that golden mean. Don't be afraid of going out, on a limb when God is with you. And that's the whole thing. You see that, to continue.
So for those that are unfamiliar, when you say a Yang Wood dragon year, not every dragon year is under Yang Wood. Is that correct?
That's correct. Every cyclical faculty has a yin and a yang side to it. You see that? And it's modified by 5, other, elements. So the yang wood dragon, there is a metal dragon, there is a water dragon, and things like that. You see that? Okay? And that's how we get to the 60 binaries, you see, meaning that, this yang wood, will repeat itself 60 years from now. You see that? And we are at the point of coming up with a better and improved Chinese Taoist system. You see that? Because Taoism was taking the wrong turn. Because it was neglected, has been neglected by most Chinese scholars who embrace Confucianism instead. When Confucius, Confucius came, he looked down on the Taoist, philosophy. You see that? He called it hocus pocus, and put China on the firm in the ground of intellectualizing and academics. Okay, and it's only recently. When I say recent, in the past 100 years or so, that the Chinese are rediscovering the beauty, if all I'm saying, of the ancient Taoist system. But there's a lot of mistakes and a lot of things that are understood and they've gotten it wrong. I spent a good 50 years, 60 years studying it, because I approach these ancient teachings with humility. And it took me a lot of soul searching to admit, these guys, these great illustrious sages made a mistake. And little me is going to change it. That could be hubris, That could be setting us up for a great fall from the ancestors, But once we went in and over and I had the opportunity to examine the Bazi of our members. You see that? I came to the understanding that the system needs to be overhauled. The same way overhaul, the Kamitic and Kabbalistic teachings in Metu Neter 7 volumes, and the more volumes to come, I have to do the same thing for the ancient Taoist tradition, and I'm doing it for the ancient Brahmanic tradition, which I introduced in my book, Life and Kundalini Yoga, where I taught the world that there are 14 chakras, not 7. There are 14 chakras in the same way we have the 14 major meridians, and so on.
Mm-hmm. So just one last question about this year of the dragon on the political landscape, Shekhem Ur Shekhem. We are faced with an election in the United States, and we have a very divisive situation, and we have some very ambitious dragonian type personalities involved. What would be your outlook for the United States and the world that it influences, and what we can do to ensure the best outcomes?
Well, it already is clear on the horizon that there's going to be a lot of draconian expressions in the world, throughout the world. Mm-hmm. The world's becoming more and more and more decisive, and present mankind does not know. They don't have the spiritual, compass to sit down and approach these differences in a spiritual way. Mm-hmm. And this is where, all of us on this talk here, are concerned. We are the ones, through meditations, we can meditate. We can learn how to create meditation scripts and awaken certain parts of our spirit and send out visions of the world changing. There's nothing new and different. We have religious groups that pray and meditate, for world peace and for things to change, and we can learn to do the same thing. And I'm equipping people who are of this bent of mind, to understand how they can, if they are not about praying to a certain version of God, if they're not about using certain spiritual scriptures and want to, let's say, follow a system that is, spiritual, non-religious, but spiritual, based on leveraging their spiritual faculties, this is what we are teaching for people to do. We can sit down with a meditation script that will teach you how to write and compose and meditate on seeing a better world. And this year we are going to institute, monthly, meditations on teaching people how to awaken that chakra, the chakra that is awakened each month, and things of that nature, to help their personal lives as well as to change and direct the conduct, the course of events in the world. It's just our world. If we don't help to save it, if we cannot use the spirit to change this world, there's nothing else left. You see that? Okay? Mm-hmm. And this is what's missing, you see that? Because the people who are now the leaders of the world, they are not going to bring spirituality. You see that as one of the tools. You see that, to change and keep this world from going off the brink.
Mm-hmm. So, Shekhem Ur Shekhem, if you would, respecting your time, you have many, you've got some agenda of this work that you are putting in, and we certainly appreciate. I know I speak for a lot of folks, and if you're in the chat, you can chime in right now if you find these conversations, and most importantly, the work. We can talk about things all day long, but the work that we've been able to benefit from in terms of these meditation systems, and now with this new winter solstice, we certainly appreciate that. We would like, if you can, a little Q&A session. You have some time.
Sure, of course.
Great. All right. So if you're online with us, put your questions in the chat now. And if you put something in much earlier, you can help me out by reposting that, so I don't have to dig back as far. And let's see here. And also, if you're on the Winter Solstice Meditation Program and you have reaped some specific benefits and you'd like to just shout that out, we'd appreciate you putting a testimonial in the chat as well. So one question that came up, I can't find it at the moment, though. Shekhem Ur Shekhem, as many of us with a an African-centered, identity, how do we relate to this Chinese science as part of our practice or lifestyle?
Well, when we go into ancient history, we find that the ancient people exchange goods. They travel around the world and exchange goods, not only commercial goods, but ideas. You see that? Okay, we find in the Kamitic tradition, we find Shamanic, meaning Indus Kush, teachings. Okay, we find, in the Kamitic tradition, Canaanite teachings as well. Wallace Budge shows a lot of elements that comes out from Central, and Eastern Africa, and the thing that to understand is that, when we look at China, the Taoist tradition, we find that the Taoist tradition, which the Chinese, for the most part, have rejected, is very close to Kamitic teachings. You see that? Okay, and it's real, and it's the same approach, but on a different level, from a different perspective, but it's the same teaching. You see that, and the thing is that, we need to leverage Shamanic and Taoist teachings, because about some over 100,000 or more of our books were destroyed by the Romans, and the Muslims when they took over Egypt. You see that? A lot of our scientific and religious books were papyrus, made from papyrus, and they were used as firewood by the women to cook their food and things of that nature. So we have lost hundreds of thousands of our books. So, so for example, the so-called Harris papyrus, okay, which is the first and oldest book on medicine in the world. You see that? Okay, became the foundation for the European pharmacopoeia for several hundreds of years, for centuries. You see that? But that Harris papyrus was one of many, many, medical books that we wrote, but they were all destroyed. You see that? Newton, okay, spoke about, that he had possession of materials where the Egyptians could, through astrology, through the knowledge of cycles, were able to predict illnesses, prognosticate and treat illnesses based on, the knowledge of cycles. You see that? But those books are lost. You see that? So, but we know that cycles was very important. You see, to the ancient Egyptians, you see that? Okay, because they would track, a lot of the temples were built on an oriented in such a manner, to align with certain stars that represented the cycles of parts of the psyche and the body and things of that nature. Okay, and after maybe 50 years or so, the temple was, reconstructed and repositioned. Okay, once the cyclic, the foundation of the cycles will shift. So cycles being very important and not having, our books because they were burnt and destroyed. And we find similar teachings in the books of, pre-dynastic China. You see that? When I say pre-dynastic China, you have to understand, for example, that Chinese civilization, they say, begins with the third dynasty. So the question is, well, what about the second and the first dynasty? Why, they were left out of Chinese civilization? The I Ching belongs to pre-dynastic China. You see that, and it was replaced by King Wen, the so-called using, the the later day calendar, later day heaven, calendar and things of that nature. But the original calendar, Fushi, okay, is very African. It's very Kamitic. You see that, and there's an old Chinese saying that the first dynasty of China came from the west, the deserts of the west. You see that, and the kings of that part of China march under the banner of the falcon, the hawk. And we know that the only people that walk under the banner of the hawk were the Chen. You see that. So we need these teachings. We find them in other traditions, and then we find that because it wasn't the original teachings, the teachings became corrupted. You see that. Okay, so we have to, in other words, I know that there were certain meditations done with certain medications in Egypt. You see that, okay? But the thing is that when you go to Ebers Papyrus, you find that the herbs and the medicines that were part of the mantras, the spells, were taken out. We're not there. So I'm going to have to go now to the Taoist tradition, which is not used as such in China anyhow, to put it to use. Because at the end of the day, all teachings come from God. All truths come from God. You see that? So use it and give praise and thanks. And I give praise, all respect to the Chinese people. I respect them and things of that nature. You see that? And I will always give credit to whatever people have accomplished and throw my 3 cents in. Well, make it 2 cents or 4, not 3. Throw my little bit in to help, bring these teachings to the world. You see that? You have to use it because, we lost, due to the invasions, the knowledge of, the specific medicines and herbs to use with certain mantras and things of that nature.
Wonderful. So Teresa has a question, and I wanted to also ask, we know that the rabbit is yin and the dragon, in this case anyway, we're speaking about yang. She asked, since we're coming out of the rabbit energy and going into the dragon, what is the best Qigong to do? Or is it just best to continue with the whole series?
Well, at this point, continue with the whole series because, the best Qigong to do, number one, have to follow a personal prescription. You see that the Sifu has to sit down with the student and analyze the student's health and level of competence and development and give a prescription for what will be the best, thing for that student to follow. You see that? Otherwise, continue. I wrote a book. My first Qigong book was a Tree of Life Qigong, where I gave the 5, tonification exercises, okay, and the 5, sound purification, special sounds to purify the meridians and organ systems. So just follow that book. Make sure you're doing it the right way. You see that? Since I published the book, I improved the performance to generate more heat and power. And so I'm going to redo that. I'm going to engage one of my students, okay, to do the video instead. Promote the students, let them have their own video to promote the teachings and so on. I'm going to pass it on to the youth.
And Shekhem, you partially answered this question already. This is Chinny, and they say, so now we're talking about Qigong. That's moving away from Kamitic principles, or how do they integrate? I'm trying to follow and correlate what is being said. So how do we integrate? I mean, you kind of already covered that, but specifically in practice, how do we integrate the Kamitic principle with the Taoist?
Well, first of all, I just got through explaining that over 100,000 of our books were destroyed. That is not a secret by the Romans and the Christians, well, mostly by the Christians, and the Muslims. They destroyed our books. So the record of our teachings from ancient Kemet is incomplete. You see that? Okay, so when you find, other aspects of the truths and teaching that you need in other ancient civilizations, doesn't make any sense for you to say, well, I'm not going to learn how to treat, arthritis, and syphilis, in a natural way, in a proper manner, because I don't have my ancestral records on how to do it. Doesn't make any sense. You see that? Okay. I, for one, my life was rescued by the I Ching. Long before, when I was, still in my early 20s, I was studying. I was a piano major in a Mannes College of Music. I went to Harlem to teach piano, give something back to the community. Okay, and Imam Baraka, his name was Leroy Jones back then. He had the class in theater and playwriting and things of that nature, and for the Black Arts Repertory School Theater. So I was teaching piano, then I ran into Sun Ra, and Sun Ra says to me that he writes his music with the help of the I Ching. I said, what is that? He says, it's another book of wisdom. So I went downtown and bought me a copy, and this was long before I had come back to Canada. There was no Egypt in my life then. I was just a student studying piano at Mannes. I was just like 22 or so, 21, and so I went, I was about 20 years old. So I went and I bought the book, and I read it. And the same day that I read it, I said, tell me about my destiny. I threw the coins and asked about my destiny. And the answer I got was to give up music and to devote myself to cultivating my spirit to help uplift others spiritually. I didn't know, A from B to Z about spirituality. You see that? So from time to time, I would do readings about, what's the spiritual way to do this and spiritual way to do that. Because I couldn't get those answers from people. In those days, there were nobody in the Black community that was, providing, spiritual teachings, or Yoruba teachings or Kan. That was not a thing in those days. Talk about 1963 or so, 64. So my spiritual guide was I Ching. And eventually, after wrestling with my destiny, reading to give up music, I gave up the music, and I was, I had, 3 songs that were recorded, playing on the radio and so forth. And I gave all of that up. I gave up classical music up. And I was a good pianist. That's it, a good composer and so on. It's the I Ching that guided me to do that. Had it not been from the I Ching, I would be a renowned concert pianist and conductor today. You see that? So I owe my spiritual life to this I Ching. Okay? It's not Chinese. It is spiritual. You see that? Okay? The reconstruction and the rejuvenation, of the Kamitic practices, I found the mantras, that the shamanic tradition, which are all black people, in Indus Kush. They are the source of the yogic tradition, and the 2 traditions in India. One is the Vedantins, which is a mixture of the Aryan and the indigenous people, and then there's shamanic, which is the indigenous people, and these are our brothers and sisters. So I'm borrowing from that. Why? Because I found the name of the mantras hidden in the Kamitic traditions. You see that? Okay? In the name of the Kamitic deities, a lot of them conceal the mantras that are used in the Shamanic tradition. But then the Shamanic tradition lacked this framework that gave unity to their teachings. and meaning and substance to their mantras and things of nature. So, it is a wonderful thing to integrate them. They all point to the same goal, which is just the divinization of man. You see that? So if somebody can give me a full Kamitic, official Kamitic, they can find those books that were destroyed. You see that? And they're not hiding in some museum or somebody's private collection. I would give up the Taoist and the Shamanic and embrace that Kamitic library if they bring it back to me. You need the library, give thanks to God, give thanks to the people, and use the knowledge, correct it, uplift it, and share it.
All right, and we have Nanika, who asks, I've noticed that many seemingly unethical or evil people tend to have a lot of success and wealth. Why is this the case?
First of all, obviously, being evil and cruel does not, in any way affect you getting, wealth and so on. You see that? But, there is a spiritual karmic repercussion down the road. You see that? Okay? And the thing is, once you learn about spirituality, you learn about the higher life beyond earthly life and so on. And if you want, first of all, to uplift your people, which is what you should want, if you want to uplift your people, you must live a spiritual and moral life and impart that to your people. So you cannot celebrate the acquisition of wealth through evil and cruel and criminal ways. You have to celebrate more morality and spirituality and inculcate that in your life and your community. But if you do not do that, you see, then the society of crooks and criminals will eventually, render everybody's life and bring everybody's down. You see that?
Mm-hmm. And we have a testimonial from Shemsu Anen Tahuti Maxwell. He says, my person is experiencing clear, vivid dreams that my person is using as part of my meditation scripts. A person is more present in the now and recites affirmations when inappropriate thoughts enters my mind. So he's giving a feedback on his experience with the Winter Solstice course so far.
That's wonderful. Give thanks.
Yes. And John asks, given your statement about the 60-year reoccurrence of the cycles, should we look at the major events that occurred in 1964 to get an abstract idea of what may occur in 2024?
Absolutely. Go back to 1963. Okay, where we had the problem with Cuba, United States, and Russia, and so forth. With Dr. King, Martin Luther King, President Kennedy, and all of those. And you're going to find that same, similar, international upheavals and bring us close to the brink of atomic war and social, changes, and everything was turbulent, and we're returning to that. You see that? So yes, every 60 years, the binary of yang wood, yang water, whatever, repeats itself. You see that? And in this year, the resolution of problems, personal, private, and international, if it's not done through diplomacy and negotiation, it will not end well for all of us.
Mahalia has a testimonial. I feel as though I was asleep and is now awakened to all this knowledge. So amazingly profound information. The Winter Solstice meditation practice is such an eye-opening experience.
Give thanks for the testimonials. Wonderful. Keep the work up.
And Keisha asks, how would the teachings of the Chinese translate to us as indigenous Americans?
Well, like I said, truth and spiritual teachings, have no race, has no nationalities, and things of that nature. When you become a student of world spirituality, you will find that every culture borrowed from us. You see that? So in many cases, we're just simply retrieving, our knowledge, from what these cultures borrow. And the important thing is, as I said, since our books, we had the first and largest schools and libraries. People would come from all over the world to read our books in Egypt, in Cairo. What is today Cairo? When the Greeks took over Egypt, they put their capital, in Egypt. You see, and the Ptolemies and so on, and they ransacked our libraries. All those books, on mathematics and things of nature became, the so-called teachings of Pythagoras, and all this Euclides, and then the algebra Mukabala, comes from, the algorithms that we develop and so forth, so that when we study algorithms and geometry and calculus from Europeans, nobody said, well, why are we studying European? Why are we getting mathematics and geometry and algebra from the Muslims and the Europeans? You see that? Number one, because we need it. Number two, because it was ours and they took it, and we are reclaiming it. Plain and simple. You see that? Okay? The Pot Neter in Egypt is the most complete and elucidative explanation of the tree of life. You see that? But then the Hebrews wrote a little bit on the tree of life, which helps to elucidate, our Pot Neter, just a little bit, but let's take it back and correct the Kabbalistic teaching. They said that the Buddha, sat under the tree of life and got his wisdom, but they did not go into the details. But when we look at his wisdom, we find our wisdom embedded in there, because you see, Egypt spread all the way up through Europe, all the way up to what's called Georgia, next to Russia, and in China. We went into all of these countries and things of that nature. So, our teachings were safeguarded in some of these, colonies. They're not really, we didn't colonize anybody, but all of these places that we set up abroad, our teachings were shared, with those people and safeguarded. You see, I guess our ancient ancestors knew that one day people would come from the north and destroy the libraries. You see that? Okay, most of what was in our libraries, the Library of Luxor, ended up being, quote, the so-called teachings of other ancient people. You see that? But nobody balks from the idea of us studying geometry and algorithms, and algebra from other people, when we were the one who developed those teachings. And it's simple.
So Letitia has a testimonial. She says, this is my first time doing the winter solstice meditation with you all. And I can say since December 21st, I have been more happier. The things that would upset me does not upset me as much as they used to. As a matter of fact, some of those things, I don't get upset about it at all. I've lost 9 pounds and counting. This is a blessing because I've been trying to lose weight for 2 years. So to be losing weight now and being able to stick in healthy, I know it's due to the spiritual work that I'm doing.
That's phenomenal. Thank you, Letitia. It's important to be able to say to your children, to your community, that I lost weight through spiritual means. You see that? Okay, you can say, yes, I lost weight because of Golo or Weight Watchers. That's fine. But if you can say, I lost weight through the power of the Spirit, you're doing something much greater. You're performing a greater. I lost weight through my renewed relationship with God. Those are more important statements. You see that? Then people want to say, can you teach me more about your relationship with God? So, that, because it's not about losing weight. Whatever she did that is causing her to lose weight will cause her to become wealthy and a better mother and a better sister and so forth. And a better whatever she chooses to do. And Letitia might be one of these, movers and shakers in this, draconian year. Because once you get started, looking back.
All right, and Richard says, I saw a small sun, dime-sized, in my lower abdomen area while doing the Swadhisthana purification meditation. Please opine on this event.
He said, saw a small sun?
Yes.
S-U-N?
Yes.
Yeah, in other words, you see, he went into trance. He went into trance and his extra perceptive abilities, opened up. And he was able to get a glimpse of the astral body in that part of the body, filling up with heat. You see that, which is solar energy. So, I would say to Richard, do not consciously look to repeat the experience. It will happen when it's ready, when it wants to, and feel that nature just flow with it. You see that, and focus though on the spiritual behavioral changes and the goals that you've set for yourself for the year. And, because a lot of people get caught up in the myriad of visions that they get and lose sight of the spiritual goals for themselves and the assistance that they can give to others. But it's on track to something very important here. Keep up the good work.
And Kimani has a testimony. She says that during my omniscience, I was seeking guidance with a financial situation, and God revealed to me to budget. I never got involved in budgeting, but during my meditation, I've actually seen myself writing out a budget to get me through this particular situation. I have to say that I feel a lot more secure about my situation.
Hold on to it and build and add to it and build upon it. That is wonderful. That is wonderful.
Yeah, it's funny how my brother is a very successful financial planner, and one of the things he said is that just about anywhere now, TikTok or whatever, you can get the proper financial information on what you're supposed to do, but it's really about will you do it? The energy to do it, and that's interesting that in her meditation, the energy came for her to do what she probably knows she needed to do.
You see, and all of these people with the testimonials, which I greatly appreciate, because it's helping, the new students who are listening to this for the first time to understand that results, are being, attained and very early. You see that, okay? And this is a result of meditations that became translated into Christmas gifts. You see that? In other words, at the end of the solstice, you get gifts, but it has been corrupted into buying mundane things and giving mundane things, which is all fine. But the real gift giving, in the winter months, is the results of your spiritual work. So that the things that you achieve are the gifts from the Spirit. You see that gifts from God. Showing you that, yes, you made connection with God and God is answering your prayers and your meditation and sharing with you. And the next time somebody asks you, does God exist? You will not be able to put it in the words, but a simple yes, backed up with an immense ocean of power will be there for you.
Well, that just about completes our hour and a half, Shekhem Ur Shekhem. We appreciate this time you've spent with us, and I'm going to leave you for any closing remarks. We did have a person who is new, apparently wasn't on our previous webinar, ask about God and how you perceive God, in making references to getting God's help and so forth. So I'll leave you with that thought and any closing remarks. Appreciate you tonight.
Yeah, well, you know, we can always answer the existence of God in an intellectual manner that will be convincing to most people, but a few others will remain skeptical. But the most important way to reveal the existence and presence of God is to do this work. You see, and when other people see you achieving your goals, and all that they can look at as a source of your success, you know, are these meditations that you're doing, awakening your psychical and spiritual faculties, your mental faculties, and then dedicating your efforts to being the living example of God. You see that? Then this is the way you convey to people that God is real. You see? And it's interesting because if you went to Mars and you found a structure in Mars that was a perfect rectangle, you know, a pyramid on Mars, you would say, you know, that had to have been built by, you know, an intelligent being. You see, that was not so-called, you know, something that nature put in place here. And that's a false theory, because nature is built according to the same scientific, you know, principles, and requiring the same type of intelligence, but even at a much higher level. Okay. So to say that, you know, if you found a car on Mars, you know, you will conclude that an intelligent being put that car there, built that car, and put it there. But Mars itself, which is, you know, a million times more sophisticated act of engineering, you know, you would say, well, that is not the presence, you know, of God. That is, you know, a natural thing. But the word natural is an anglicization of the Roman natura, the Latin natura, and the Roman natura comes from the Egyptian neteru, which is what? The faculties of the spirit. So I leave you with that. God is, talk to God, you know, learn how to be one with God and become the living vessel of God on earth. And you will see wonderful things for yourself, and you will do wonderful things for others, and help them to also embrace, their oneness with God.
Thank you so much, Shekhem Ur Shekhem.
Thank you.
A good evening, and power, peace, and blessings. Anech Harak. All right. And we're having a fourth meeting of our course members. The fourth meditation, the Winter Solstice Meditation series, or course, I should say. Here you go. That's how you can sign up if you're new to this information. For $35, you get a on-demand, immediately available Winter Solstice Meditation course, which includes live meditation, group meditations, and webinars as well for course members only. So this Saturday at 8 p.m., we're having our fourth session. Our fourth meditation will give you guidance and experience on how to do the chakra purification. We're focusing this quarter on the Swadhisthana chakra. You can learn all about that in the course. And there's a special meditation that you will do with mantras that will help you to purify and elevate the functioning of this important part of your psyche, the Swadhisthana chakra. So on Saturday night, that's going to be January 6th, a very special day. We'll be having a meditation live right here. If you're a course member, you'll get an invitation through your SoundWise app's notifications. You'll also receive an email. So make sure you set your calendar to be with us Saturday night, 8 p.m. for the guided Swadhisthana Chakra meditation. All right. And before we go, any of you who are having any issues with your course with SoundWise, I just want to spend a moment to go over that if you happen to be here with us on this broadcast. So our course is delivered on a platform called SoundWise. And SoundWise is an app that you will load on your phone. You can also access it through your computer at mysoundwise.com. Now, there's a couple of issues that do affect a small number of people. And what that has to do with is that when you download this app to your phone, if you have an iPhone or an Android or whatever have you, and your phone was registered with a particular email address when you set up your phone and your app store or what have you, but then you go and you buy the course and you put in a different email than that, you might not even remember what email address you use when you set up your app store, then you'll find that you'll open up SoundWise and the course will not be there. Well, it's because the course has been loaded with the email address that you made the purchase with, right? So just send us an email at sales@kamiticlegacy.com. I'll put that up for you. You happen to be one of the folks having this issue, and we will help you to get that straightened out. What you want to do first is log out and log back in and make sure you're using the same email address that you registered with, right? So that's how you solve that problem. Send us an email. We'll help you to get that straight right away. All right. The other issue that you might have from time to time is that SoundWise has some glitches when it comes to the updates of your Apple phone or your Android phone. So sometimes you might open it and it might close on you. When that happens, it just means that the update didn't take, and all you have to do is close the app, reopen it. If that doesn't work, then delete the app and just reinstall it, and everything will still be there in your library and it'll work fine. Okay, so with that said, I want to extend my appreciation for you being with us tonight and wish you all the peace and prosperity and success in the year 2024. We are going to we're going to mount and ride this dragon to success together. So I'll see you on Saturday night for chakra purification. And Tapu, peace and blessings.